Hey guys, it's Marc Savard here. I got a special guest, John Zulli. It's good to see your face. How have you been?
Oh, wonderful, Mark. And good to see you as well. It's been a while.
I know we've been trying to connect. I know we had lunch in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and since then, you and I have been trying to connect. I want to introduce you to a lot of our followers, people that have followed our YouTube, follow my Facebook. They know me, they don't know you, so I want them to get to know you. You've been traveling all over for the last couple of weeks. You're in Atlanta now.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta working for Metropolitan Life. We're doing a series of seminars on peak performance for just about everybody on the team, not just salespeople. But, it's a very stressful experience for a lot of those folks, and being able to show them ways to not just de-stress, but to live, work, and compete at their peak it's an absolute pleasure and a real privilege.
Now, this all comes from a hypnotherapy background. I mean, you are a clinical hypnotherapist. You were the lead instructor at the school that I trained at Gilboyne School. And you also have some training experience through the CAPAS system. So kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds, where most hypnotherapy seems to follow. You and I are connecting. We're teaching hypnotherapy in January of 2016. I couldn't be more excited. I've been courting you for a while now, and to try to make this happen. We're making it happen. What are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, Mark, I started actually when I got involved in hypnotherapy. I wanted to do seminars and workshops. That was what was important to me, was to go out and to reach out to groups of people, not just do individual training. And through the hypnotherapy that I did and through the teaching that came from it, I've been able to break into a whole field now that allows me to travel all over the world and to speak to groups such as Notre Dame University next week, Department of the Treasury, Department of Transportation. I get involved at Gilead Bioscience, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. You pretty much name any major organization, and I've been there. That all came out.
I've never heard of those guys. Never heard of any of them.
just a few lightweight names. Allstate Insurance after this. And again, this is what I wanted from hypnotherapy: is the opportunity to learn and to utilize this knowledge of how the mind works and how it interacts with the body. And it's interesting too, because one of the things that I wanted from hypnotherapy was to be able to have a credential of some kind. I didn't have at the time a PhD as I do now, and I wanted to be able to call myself something. And it's opened a tremendous world for me. My initial exposure to hypnotherapy came through the martial arts. I was a defensive tactics instructor. As you know, I used to be a park ranger. I've done I tell groups, I said, I've done everything. I've been everything from a park ranger to a university president. And I said, I know how you feel when you hear an introduction like that. You think this guy can't hold down a job. But I've been very fortunate to work for myself. And as I said, I started out in Parks and Recreation, and I was doing as the lead defensive tactics instructor for my department. And I was looking for something that I could use for myself in a tight situation. I'm not exactly 7 foot tall. So I wanted, if I got into an altercation, I wanted to be able to use something that would be very powerful, very subtle, and would solve the problem. And I found it in a little book. It was called Bruce Lee's 1 and 3 Inch Punch. It was written by a man by the name of James DeMiley. And in the book, it talks about being able to generate a tremendous kinetic explosion from just 1 inch away from your target. And I think you've actually experienced this in some of the seminars. I've demonstrated it.
I have, and I've actually demonstrated it to some of my students as well. So this information is passing along very effectively.
Well, what James said is that you needed to lay down on your bed and you needed to relax, because the key to this particular technique, the kinetic explosion that comes, is from every muscle in your body being relaxed and then every muscle coming into play at one time. And as I said, this tremendous kinetic force comes from it. So he said you've got to lay on your body and lay in your bed and relax your legs, relax your midsection, relax your arms, relax your face. And I went through this process. And then he said you've got to give yourself a key word, which is relax. Well, that was pretty difficult, right? So I went through this process several times. And then one day, while I was at the park, there was an altercation. And it was kind of a serious situation. And I could feel my respirations beginning to increase. My heart rate went up. I became tense. My mind started going blank. And a little voice in the back of my head said, use your relaxation technique. And I did. I told myself relax, and it was instantaneous. My body completely relaxed, my brain cleared up, and I realized what we could do to solve the situation. Well, as soon as we cleared that situation, Mark, I had to know what this stuff was. I drove right back to my house in my patrol vehicle. I drove right back to my house. I grabbed Demiley's book and I looked at it and I realized that he was talking about this thing called self-hypnosis. I wasn't really clear what hypnosis was. I didn't know what self-hypnosis was, but I knew that I needed to have that. In the martial arts, I was taught that true martial arts is calm in a burning building, and that's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for being able just to go out there and kick butt. I wanted to learn how to calm myself and take control of what went on inside of me. So I began to look around, and I found a school in Los Angeles called the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. It was run at the time by a pioneer in the field, Dr. John Kappas. And I began to take courses from Dr. Kappas, and I became a certified hypnotherapist in, 1986. Then I went back to Parks, and people found out about this. They were like, I got my certification, as I said, and people started calling me up and saying, I have to fly in an airplane, and I'm terribly paranoid, and I'm frightened. And someone called up and said, do you think this hypnosis stuff would work for me? And inside I thought, no way, not going to happen, impossible. But I didn't tell the person that. I said, yeah, come on over to my house and we'll work. And I did a little work in my living room, and lo and behold, this woman was never afraid to fly again. My next client was a full bird colonel in the Army who needed to lose weight. And, he came in, he was very angry at the Army. I could see where this was not going to be a great situation, for him to be able to let go and, let somebody else work with him. But amazingly, he went into a deep trance and then began to lose weight and exercise more, eat better, etc., and was able to satisfy what the Army wanted from him. Well, now I'm absolutely positive I have to know something about this. And I've also realized simultaneously that I was making far more money having people come to my house at night than I was driving around a patrol vehicle, risking my life in Parks and Recreation. I decided at that point that I was going to make a career out of hypnosis. And in addition, I wanted to reach out to groups and affect change in large groups of people. I moved to San Luis Obispo, California. I opened up a private practice. I began seeing people. I remember talking to John Kappas at one time and asking him, what should I charge? And he says, well, charge $10 less than what all the psychotherapists are charging. And I thought, well, why should I do that? So I immediately started charging what they were charging, which at the time was a measly $60 an hour. One thing led to another. I began to develop I had quite a reputation in the San Luis Obispo area. I began to work with triathletes. I began to work with professional golfers on the Senior Pro Tour. I began to work with tennis players. I also began to specialize in something that I recommend hypnotherapists look into, which is working with fears and phobias. I began to specialize in anxiety disorders. It took a year or two, but my third year as a hypnotherapist, I made $80,000 in doing private sessions. Now, I had bumped my price up all the way to $75 a session. So I started doing the numbers, and that's how many clients I had at the time. At the same time, people came to me and said, well, how can I learn this stuff? And I began to look around for an opportunity to open a school. It's then that I came in contact with Mr. Gil Boyne, your mentor and my mentor. And a whole new facet of hypnotherapy opened up. John Kappas was a tremendous, tremendous teacher. He taught me how to virtually hypnotize anybody, from the most difficult to the easiest. He taught me how to deepen the trance. He taught me how to do, which was very important, he taught me how to do a dynamic first session. That first session of hypnosis, people have to have that experience that they know they were hypnotized, and they were hypnotized deeply. Remember, people come to a hypnotherapist, they're not coming for psychotherapy. They're coming in there for hypnotherapy, and they need to be able to recognize the state and have that experience. But Gil Boyne was a whole nother experience, as you well know.
Very well know. Yes, continue.
Yeah, Gil, where John was kind of the head of hypnotherapy, Gil was the heart. And, Gil's style of therapy was, well, I don't know how else to say. It was very confrontational. It was like nothing I had ever seen. The first time I saw Gil Boyne, he was hypnotizing someone using your standing induction, the same one you use in your show. And he grabbed that person by the back, by their back, and pulled them forward and yelled, "Sleep!" And I remember jumping up from the chair I was in and looking at the person next to me and going, "I will never do that to anyone." Until after I started training with Gil and I realized the power in that particular technique, and then I started utilizing it numerous times. But Gil talked about the heart of therapy, about how this process was a deeply transformational process that was not unlike that was unlike any other therapy out there because it involved the re-education of the subconscious mind. And so I began to negotiate with Gil for opening a school. And one of the first things he said is, well, if you're going to teach what I teach, you better come here and train with me. So after I graduated from John Kappas' school, after I had been a hypnotherapist for several years, I began to train with Gil Boyne. And as I said, another door opened up entirely. Again, that confrontational work where we go deep into the subconscious mind and affect change. And so I trained with Gil. I opened up the Hypnotherapy Training Institute of the Central Coast of California. And for many years, I certified students. And one of the things I'd like to say is that I'm very fortunate. You know, many students didn't have that kind of well-rounded approach, but I have both the head and the heart end of things. I began to train students, and then one day I got a phone call from Mr. Boyne, and he asked me to come to Los Angeles and have a conversation with him. He then offered me the opportunity to teach with him on the same stage. Mark, to my knowledge, I am the only person to ever teach alongside Gil Boyne. Through Gil Boyne, I met such hypnotherapy notables as Orman McGill, a man that was, if you talk about Gil being the heart of hypnotherapy, John Kappas being the head of hypnotherapy, Orman McGill was the soul of hypnotherapy. This was a person that blended Eastern mysticism and meditation with hypnosis and talked about developing higher levels of consciousness through hypnosis. I took numerous trainings with Orman McGill and with Gil Boyne, and we had an amazing time, an amazing adventure exploring the mind, the body, and the soul.
Now, you and I connected. We taught hypnotherapy together many years after this whole process. Well, in between, I went and trained at the school, as we mentioned. I trained with yourself and Gil Boyne. And from there, I went back to Canada. I was doing hypnotherapy. I was doing shows. I got hit by a drunk driver. Many of you know the story of that, but this isn't about me. It's about you and the school. And from there, you and I have always kept in touch. We met 20 years ago, 2 decades, and we've always kept in touch. And we connected and taught hypnotherapy about 8 years ago and 7 years ago. And a couple of things happened in our lives where we parted ways briefly for a few years, and now we're reconnecting and reteaching again. Okay, let me back up. You went and trained with John Kappas. You opened your own school. You didn't need more training. You went and trained with Gil Boyne, got more training, a different level of training, as you mentioned, the mind and the heart and the soul. Many hypnotherapists are considering coming to take our training. Why would they do that? Why would they take training from you and I?
Well, Mark, I mean, you know, I'm a motivational speaker and a seminar leader that travels all over the country with major clients. You have a headlining show in Las Vegas and have done very, very well for yourself over the years. I think that our credentials kind of speak for themselves. But here's a couple other reasons also. Number one, the unfortunate truth is that Gil Boyne is no longer with us. He lived a long life. Dr. Kappas also lived a long life, but unfortunately, he's not here. So one of the major advantages that someone would have of coming and train with us is that they're going to get the essence of Gil Boyne and John Kappas with the refinement of you and I over the last 20 years of taking that information and working with it. So they're going to get both the heart, the mind, and the soul of hypnotherapy, and refined through your filters and my filters, your experience and my experience. The second reason why they should come and train with us is go ahead and look at other hypnotherapy schools' brochures. As you look at those brochures, you'll notice they teach everything under the sun. They've got Sufi mysticism, they're teaching NLP, they're teaching hours and hours of information that I don't necessarily recognize as hypnotherapy. You know, most courses are between 150 hours and 200 hours. Our course is 160 hours. Well, that sounds like a lot to people. The truth of the matter is it goes by in the blink of an eye. what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that when those students are certified, they walk out, they understand what hypnosis is, how to induce a deep trance, how to do a dynamic first session, because it's the most important session in the hypnotherapy field. Most therapists lose up to 50% of their clients because they don't know how to hypnotize people deeply. They don't know how to help people to recognize the trance state. So what I'm saying is that we teach hypnotherapy. When someone leaves here, they'll be able to teach hypnotherapy to groups. They'll be able to open a private practice and make a very, very fine living for themselves in the people helping profession. So let me just recap real fast. They're going to get the essence of two of the most powerful pioneers in history. You know, Gil Boyne once told me, he said, you can explain what I do better than I can. And, we enjoyed a very, very close camaraderie there for many, many years. They're going to get the essence of two powerful pioneers that has been expanded on by years of experience between you and myself, who've done pretty well for ourselves. And they're going to learn the essence of hypnotherapy. Because what I see happen is people come out and they don't know how to start a private practice. They don't know how to appeal to groups, to get interaction with groups, so they can be either a life coach or a motivational speaker or somebody that affects change on a large basis. And they're going to get it in a very short period of time in a course that has been proven. As I said, if you look at your track record and many others, in a course that's been proven to turn out highly successful hypnotherapists, both from the standpoint of being able to conduct the therapy and do it well, and to learn how to make a living or make money, I guess a better way of saying it,
Right.
through the practice of hypnotherapy.
Now, the training that we've offered in the past, the stage hypnosis is really my world. The hypnotherapy is really your world. We have combined it in the past, and in the past when we've taught hypnotherapy, you've taught 75% of it from the stage. I break down a lot of the sessions that you do from the science perspective, of which I do enjoy the science of hypnosis, as many of you know and have followed my products. And the combination between the two, you've mentioned how bringing that to the forefront, our last 2 decades of experience, brings a lot to the table. It allows 2 instructors to move around the room and be a lot more accessible. And I mean, I guess let me ask you the other way. Why would they not take this training? Can you think of a reason why?
Low IQ. I'm not really sure. No, again, you want to follow people that are successful. That and we're real world. I mean, that's the other part of it is that this is not some kind of and please pardon me, I don't want to offend anyone, but kind of airy fairy, spiritual exercise. There is a spiritual component to hypnosis, but that can come much later on. What you want to be able to do is, if you're coming to train with us, you're going to walk out of there. You're going to know how to work with athletes. You're going to know how to work with fears, phobias, and anxiety. You're going to know how to work with childbirth. Something that how many kids do you have?
4. My wife is a legend at the hospital. They actually still talk about her.
You're going to learn how to work with pain control. What you're going to, and that's only a brief recap. What the person's going to learn when they come and train with us is the major applications, the reasons people come to a hypnotherapist, and how to be successful with those applications. A third of my private practice was children. And sometimes it was for simple things like bedwetting. Other times it was for sports endeavors or scholastic efforts, rage, being able to modify rage. Again, they're going to come out with hands-on experience. And I think you mentioned something that's very important. There's 2 of us. This is not just a one-man band, so to speak. They're getting the opportunity to hear about hypnosis from 2 very credible sources. And, we've done this before. That's the other reason. This isn't. We didn't just open this school. We haven't been teaching hypnotherapy from last week. This goes back decades. And I would say, look at our track record. Look where we are. Recognize that the heart and soul of hypnotherapy, the concepts, the ideas that you integrate, we're also going to teach you the applications with the major reasons why people come in to see a hypnotherapist.
All right. I wanted this just to be a candid conversation. It is so. It's not a sales pitch. This is who we are. We're real, and we're excited about sharing the information with all of you guys. We'd love to see you at our training. Registration is open October 1st of 2015, and we're excited to have you on board. Maybe we'll do another one of these videos if people have some questions that they want to know more specifically about the training, or just to get to know a little bit more about John and myself. Thanks for being on the call, John, and spending your time with me. I'm excited to reconnect and rejoin and teach with you in 2016. Thank you to you guys for watching the video. Any last comments or words that you want to throw in?
You know, one of the things I didn't realize when I started in hypnotherapy was the dramatic change that was going to take place inside of me. I remember about 5 years in, a client left the office, and I sat back in the chair and I realized I had changed. I had become much of the person that I really wanted to be. And the reason that I started out in the first place was, again, that sense of self-management, that inner control, that inner calm that that the practice of hypnotherapy can give you. See, you can't hypnotize somebody and tell them over and over that, you know, they're confident and they feel great, or that they're a powerful human being, without some of that information sliding in. So in addition to the people helping field, if you really want to get involved for your own personal growth, there's a tremendous, tremendous release of negative energy, negative thoughts, and a infusion of power and personal growth.
On that note, my students have always heard me say this, and I don't know where it came from, but you can't be exposed to this information and not change. I'm Marc
That's a
Savard
fact.
with John Zulli. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Mark.